Ladies, gentlemen, back again with another video. Now this one's going to be relatively long, but if you can stick with it, I think there's some interesting ideas, and I would actually really like to get your thoughts on what you think of these ideas. So yeah, it's just basically my ideas on what I would do to improve, change things in CB, just extra ideas to make the game more fun, more immersive. Yeah, so I really hope you enjoy, and I will see you at the end of the video, hopefully, if you make it that far. Thanks, guys. So the first thing I want to get into is gearing. Gearing is obviously, it's got to be quite a big part of the game, and currently you get to you know, Carnifex or Rogue Armor or Guardsman, and you sort of just roll that until you get the best thing. That I don't think there's a problem with. I think that's still fine. But the issue that I have anyway, is that like gear's a big progression thing, and I agree it needs to be like stopped at some stage, and then you can go into the RNG thing. But what would be nice is if the actual epic schematic gear was kind of a bit more relevant, maybe a bit less rare getting the schematics. Maybe like 5 a season would be quite nice. But also in terms of the extra the abilities on the gear, the set bonus, I think these ones should be changed, but in like a similar way to how runes work. Maybe for a 2 set you have 3 things you can pick from to do with your class, and then 4 you have 3 things to pick for that you can do for your class. So they kind of act almost like another rune slot, but not for the runes, just their own separate thing. So for example, the dual blades one, your vapors, duration is increased by 1% for the 2-piece. It's basically pointless. And then killing enemy heroes reduces your infiltrator cooldown by 50%. That's good. That is good, but the problem is that, one, at the moment everyone's really using the shuriken toss, but 2, it's kind of more situational. You would have to get the kill and whatever, and I mean some people might like to pick that, but it'd be quite cool to have 2 other things for the 4 set to pick from, and then 2 other things in the 2 set to pick from. It might make the gear slightly more relevant. That I think would work quite well. The other thing, if they didn't want to go down that route and leave this as it is, then I think they should make a 1 more set that's kind of got the same stats. So the thing about like games, and people love to min-max, doesn't matter how much the bonus is. People love to do it, and like back in the day, I used to play WoW for a long time, and then I quit WoW and then came back for Classic WoW, and people would literally spend hours to get something that gives them a 0.2% extra damage, like the most insane amount of time. And so let's take Carnifex for example. The Carnifex 4 set bonus increases your strength, agility, and toughness and armor by 10. So that's great. What the progression armor, the next one up, would be just like that, but increase it by 12 or 15, and then people can start rolling that. Maybe a slightly rarer schematic, you know, but like maybe not as rare as these. I'd actually quite like to see both of these. So we've got like your greens, then you've got the blue Carnifex, then 1 more, and then this armor that you then can try and get to roll to get, and then this one having the 3 choices on the 2 set and 3 choices on the 4 set to do. But that's just my little idea, but it probably will never happen. But I just think something needs to be done with gearing, just to keep people interested. Gearing is a big part, and don't get me wrong, the rush of rolling a piece of rogue set for me, and it coming out to be, you know, 20 leadership and have decent stats and yeah, and rolling a legendary, that's so nice. But it'd be quite nice to have something, maybe like another epic schematic goes in here, or just sort out the current epic schematics. You know, it's it would be just nice to have relevant class bonuses on these bits of armor. So yeah, that's my number one. Gearing. I'd like gearing to be you know, more to it in terms of like another step to go. Yeah. So my number 2 on the list is gathering. Gathering and sort of crafting unit kits, refining, that sort of thing. So this is going to be a little bit of a big segment, and people might find this controversial potentially, but I don't think the gathering's great. In terms of what you get, like if I want to make some unit kits, let's say I want to make some unit kits for my, let's say, palace guards, the cost of like getting all the stuff together in bronze and some silver is way more than it would cost for me just to give them unit kits just through paying the bronze and giving them unit kits. Like, it doesn't seem worth going out and making them. And even if you can squeeze a profit, you're gonna it's the tiniest little profit. And this mainly comes down to the fact that houses obviously charging for tariff for the kind of use of the things, use of the nodes. You know, like here, marble quarry. If I needed some marble, it's going to cost me 9,000 bronze per go, and I'd probably need to use this multiple times to make 5 or 6 unit kits, and that's just one item. I would need maybe 4 items, then refine them. That's going to cost me things, and I get it. It's kind of cool that the house can charge bronze for getting this, but personally, I think what it should, if you make the node and the items you get from the node more valuable, but you can do more with them, then you could get rid of the bronze tax and put a percentage tax on. So if I come over here and let's say I mine 200 marble, the house can choose the percentage of how much they can tax me in the marble I made. So they could take, like, you know, 50 of my 200 marble as a tax. And then it goes into their, so let's call it a guild bank, and then they can go and make all their artillery unit kits or whatever they want with that. And it probably could add a new role to the house. You could have like the smither, that's the guy that can go in there, create everything, and then kind of distribute it to the house. You know, all the cannons and stuff like that. So I like the idea that you're out with your men, and yeah, you're out with your men off to do some mining and stuff like that. I think that's really cool. But you could add other things to it to make it a bit more entertaining. Because I do love it when you know, in other games, when you're a bit tired of doing PvP or PvE or whatever you're up to, being able to just go out and do some gathering. But the gathering has to feel worthwhile. So, like, my example for the gearing is pretty similar. In WoW, you were feeling like, you know what, I'm just going to go out and do an hour's worth of mining or herbalism, just go and pick some herbs or whatever. I kind of want the same for Conquest Blade, that you can go, you know what, I don't feel like doing a siege for a little bit, but I'm going to go out and actually, like, do some gathering. And I think this current system stops that from being kind of worthwhile. So yeah, I'd like to see the bronze cost of things gone and make it into a percentage. So effectively it would still work, because the people coming to use your nodes would be working for you. You would still choose the percentage. I mean, up to a certain point, you know, you wouldn't want it like 90%, and that would be ridiculous. But you know, maybe that's up to the house what they want to choose from it. So I'd like to see that changed in terms of just make it more viable to do gathering. So yeah, if I was to come in here and do some, this wouldn't cost me well, currently it's costing me 1,000 because this is my alliance, but yeah, this would just be a percentage of whatever I'm gathering. So I think that would work quite nicely and benefit the house too. So this is the other thing that kind of goes hand in hand with the gathering, but I think this needs to be simplified, massively simplified. And the problem is also if I'm going to make a unit kit, I want to make one unit kit. I need to, I think it's like some of the unit kits are 50 for one, so it's going to cost me 100 silver, and then I need like 4 other things. Maybe one of them I need 150. It's kind of, yeah, it's a lot. Maybe scale that back so unit kits become a little bit more viable to go and make and sell. But mainly this just needs to be simplified, the refining. And also, when you make a large amount, I know, you know, realism is something that's great, but when I'm making 9,000, that's going to take 15 minutes of me sitting here. So yeah, how long is the longest I can get it going? Okay, so if you make 50,000, it's going to take 1 hour. That I think is a nice idea, but like 30 seconds is long enough. We don't need to wait an hour for it. Or if you want to make it last an hour, let us be able to close this down and then come back and pick it up later. That might be the best option if you want to make it take an hour. And then into the unit kits. I think there needs to be a change with unit kits in terms of making it more viable to, you know, more worth your while to go out and be like, right, I'm going to spend an hour of time to go and make some unit kits. Because if I spend an hour at the moment making unit kits, especially like purple and below, I will spend 3 times as much copper. That's back from my WoW days. Bronze, making them. And it will take me like 2.5 hours. Where I don't mind the hourage, I just want it to be worth my while in monetary cost. So that's where it kind of comes into the gathering side as well. But I like the idea. I really like the system. I like that, you know, you can find a guy that needs to be resupplied, and I can be like, oh, that's only 24,800 bronze. But maybe if this was much more and that was 100,000, I'd be like, you know what? I don't really want to do a siege for the next 30 minutes to an hour. I'll go out and make them. So yeah, I think I think that's worthwhile doing. I think just a little change to gathering will make a whole change to this whole thing. But it definitely also needs to be, unit kits need to be a bit more accessible. You can make artillery as expensive as you want, to be honest. That's big stuff. But I think unit kits should be encouraged for people to go out and want to make them. So yeah, that's number 2 on my list. Kind of a hard one to explain, but hope I kind of got my point across with it. Yeah. So number 3 is related to PvE in the game. Again, with the same kind of context as gathering, sometimes you want to jump into a game and not always do PvP. So I think this game has a lot more relevance in PvE than they're bothering to use, because they're missing the fact that in the Scourge of Winter, we had a boss that kind of set the groundworks for them to really hit like a PvE stride in this game, because it was really fun. Everyone I've talked to about that who's kind of an older player who was around in Scourge of Winter, loved it. It was so much fun. So this takes me to what I would like them to add in that I think would be really nice. This would be a similar thing. This would be kind of like you would join up with 5 friends. So you'd almost make a group that you stick with for the week, that you attempt to work your way through. Let's call this a raid. This is your PvE raid. And you go you enter this thing. Maybe you would put it out in the open world, so you have to go with your group of guys, and just for that immersion factor, you'd have to go over and do it. And what would happen is you can't just sign up for this. It's got to be with your group, with a pre-made group. So it's so it feels a little bit more like, you know, you're talking through VC, you're getting the tactics down. And what would happen is you would, similar to the mercenary system, they would give you 5 units or 4 units a week. That everybody would have the same units, and then the 5 of you would get into this small castle, and you'd be on the attacking side, and you would start like any other siege. There would be AI coming out, maybe a little bit smarter AI, but nonetheless some AI. So you'd use your troops, try and use them to the best of your abilities, not to get them killed too much, because you're going to need them later. And so you'd get in, let's say you're going to A, let's say A's just here, and on A, once you've cleared all the trash, there'd be a boss standing here, and you've got to use your troops or decide not to use your troops, put them back away, or have them shooting or whatever. But this guy's similar to the Scourge of Winter boss, where it's kind of, well, unless you cheese it, that they would have to kind of figure that one out. It's all about movement. So similar kind of to Elden Ring, where that's kind of what the Scourge of Winter boss felt like. You would had to dodge at the right point. You had to not get work out his rotation. What is like when he went red, you kind of move away from him. You know, that sort of thing. So you and your 5 other mates would be fighting this guy, kind of working out the rotations, and then eventually you get him down and you move on to the next boss. Maybe there's 3 to 5 bosses in a raid, and you'd have more trash come down here, and the next boss you kind of learning his rotations, but one of his abilities is that he summons a cav charge, and a cav charge, so you're fighting him here, just kind of comes from over there and just comes through, and that's where you have to kind of get your units involved and try and pike walk or whatever units you've been given for that week. You're trying to, you know, use them at most effectively and keep them alive enough, keep enough of them alive for the, you know, getting through the fights, because maybe you'd have all these fights with different mechanics, like maybe the first boss had a pike walk, or some gunmen that spawned down the row here that you had to go and take out and block with your shields, or, you know, just these mechanics. And, you know, if you get caught without your get off the floor ability, you know, get up from knockdown or get out of stuns, it can mean death for one of your teammates. And then in terms of death for these things, let's say it gives you the maximum death timer. That's, I think it's like 80 seconds or 90 seconds. And if your team all die in that thing, it's, you know, it's over. You got to restart, or something. Maybe something a little less. Maybe checkpoints. So once you've done that boss from A, then if you die after that, you start back at A, and you have to clear the trash again. And there'd be definitely things to work out that, you know, that leave it to the curators for that. But it would be much more of a competitive PvE side to it. And I mean, you would have to work out the loot. Maybe that goes back to my gearing system. Maybe the next bit of where you get these other epic schematics would be from doing the raids once a week or twice a week. That would be pretty cool. Yeah, so I think it'd be quite cool to have these bosses back. Three in a PvE siege, and the bosses to be actually quite challenging, and the bosses change and maybe get involved in the storyline for the seasons every season. So yeah, that is my number 3, PvE raids that are actually difficult as well. They would have to be difficult. Like, I would love them to be challenging, and that, yeah. So that's it. That's that one. So this next one, number 4, would be for PvP events that aren't really based off your hero. So at the moment, we've obviously got death matches and free battles. Well, there's so many fun units in the game that, like what we're doing here. This was what I was calling the Falconetti run. So the runners on the floor have peasants, and they have to get from one side to the other side with the most amount of peasants surviving while they survive as well. and the people up top have falconettis and shoot mortars at them and try and hit them with the falconettis. So I'd like to see little, like, you know, it doesn't have to be every day or anything like that, just every now and then having some events where it's like, okay, we're not really using the heroes, we're going to build a fun scenario like this where, you know, the winner of the team on the floor is the guy that gets to the end first and with the most peasants left, and the winner up top is the guy that gets the most kills. It's a bit of fun. Don't have to give too much reward with it, but it's hilarious to watch, and just changes things up a bit. You're not hero to being hero, you're just using units in a fun way. The other idea we had would be like a, you know, same sort of thing, but you have 15 people trying to infiltrate a castle with no weapons. They can't actually use their weapons. They got peasants behind them, and all the other 15 members on the other team, the enemy team, have flamethrowers but can't use their weapons. So the peasant teams have to get to the end point before they get roasted by the flamethrowers. And you could run 3 rounds of this where everybody gets a go in each position. So yeah, that is number 4. Just a bit of a diversity of things. Just make it fun. Yeah. Now number 5, my last one for this. I've got a lot of ideas for this game because I think it has so much potential, but I'm only going to do 5 here. And I think this is quite necessary. It's a bit of a no-brainer. Is every season, you know, be it like a Scottish season or the Viking season, like there's so much opportunity to have storyline and get people immersed. Be it just with quests, you know, and the current quests in the game are like do 5 sieges and do this, and the only fun quests I have, or exciting quests, because I'm actually getting a decent reward, is when you unlock a unit and you get their unit quests for like a Pacific doctrine, and that's feels good because you're getting something good, but that's not the point. I want a quest that's sort of immersive, uses the world. So like, this will be a bit of a traveling quest, but you kind of you could make a little storyline. Wouldn't have to be the most in-depth thing, but like it could be as easy as going, right, you speak to a guy in the city here, he says to you, go to Conqueror City, and in a drain somewhere you'll find a thing, or search this drain for this thing, and you find a note there, and that note sends you somewhere else to the edge of the world here somewhere, let's say down here, and in the corner there's a very hard like bandit with maybe one of the bosses from my PvE raid idea, and then you have to defeat him, and he drops something else that tells you to do something else to go over here, and this guy says, okay, I can make that medallion for you. You're gonna have to bring me X and X. So then you take your guys gathering and specific gathering spots. So you go and gather. You go to you go back to him. He refines it into that. You take it. Like, you see where I'm kind of going with this. And then you could have storyline where, you know, you're saving someone, or the dialogue could fill you in on what's going on. Where the Vikings or whatever season you're in are invading. I just think you could immerse people and use the world more. Like, just from a quest. Just from, what was that, 4 quests. We've gone from here to here, all the way down to the bottom here, fought someone big, fought like someone quite hard that's taken us a bit of time, found the note, he said to us to go up here, and then we've met a refinery guy who's maybe comes from the Viking things, and he's the only guy that can make this, I don't know, bracelet of power. And then he needs us to go and do some resource gathering. That's great. Now we got another use for resources. You do some resource gathering, you go back there. Like, that's not even that, that's literally thought of off the cuff. You could do something way more in depth, where you're like, maybe even like a transport run, you know, where you go and pick someone up from here, and you've got they do a annoyingly slow walk through here while you're being attacked by bandits. You know, you could make it into a instance thing, but yeah, I think that could be, questing could be built to be much more in depth and much more use much more of the outdoors and use much more. I mean, if you really wanted to go into something crazy with it, you could have it that in some sieges, in like a drain or something, it's like, okay, once you get, you're obviously signing up for siege after siege, but the quest says, okay, once you get Wall City or let's say Angolia or something like that, or Reginopolis, in the drain, in the tunnels under there, there's a crate, and I need you to grab me something out of that crate. So during a battle, you're doing a quest at the same time. You're going down into the crate, or at the final point, there's a crate that I need you to grab. That could be quite funny in a siege if you got all the people trying to jump on point, and then you got like 7 or 8 people going for this crate trying to grab their quest. But hey, it's just a normal siege, so it could be fun. But questing, I think questing should be more in depth and tell you more about the storyline and send you to more places. Yeah, it would let people know what's going on and give them a little bit of immersion, and it would use more places. Like, some people never leave Conqueror City, some people just stay here forever. You could send them over here to grab something, and send them down here and all the way to Reginopolis to see that, and yeah, and they take their men with them and they're marching around. I think it'd be cool. So yeah, and that is it, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sorry it was such a long one today. I didn't realize it would end up rambling on for 28 minutes. But I hope you enjoyed. Leave your opinions and your ideas in the chat, in the comments even. Chat is for Twitch. That you can go and follow if you want to. Plumption, Twitch. Anyway, thanks guys. Hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one.